Welcome to this Autistic Selves video on getting to know our system. This video has been made for an Aucademy session on explaining being autistic and a system. All the questions in this video were asked by Aucademy. The first question they asked was, who are you and what are your dedicated interests, specialisations, sometimes referred to as special interests? We are a group of people or alters that share one body. There are over 20 of us. We all have different names, ages and interests. The host or main personality is called Naomi. Naomi is our legal name and is the name people use for us in our everyday life. It can be confusing for us because it isn't always Naomi who is fronting. Each of us have our own special interests. Most of us enjoy reading, writing, art, cats and running. Our special interests are mostly held by our younger alters. For example, Laura, who is 9 years old, loves Care Bears, and Patsy, who is 6, loves Paddington Bear. The next question Aucademy asked was, when did you discover you were autistic? We were diagnosed as autistic 3 years ago when we were 42 years old. What is DID? DID stands for Dissociative Identity Disorder. It is diagnosed when a person has 2 or more identities that take control of their body at different times. The identities are different ages and have different names, interests, voices and personalities. It used to be called multiple personality disorder. Most of our alters are very different to each other. For example, we have some that aren't sociable at all and others that are really sociable. This is Dina. She's our most sociable and outgoing alter. She's very different to the rest of us and doesn't come out in the world very often. She fronted mostly when we were in our 20s. Nowadays she helps us when we need to be sociable. We all end up drained when she comes out, so she doesn't come out much. What is the language of the DID community and how would you define things like plurality, system and alters? We can only speak for ourselves, but we prefer to use positive language to describe ourselves and to move away from seeing ourselves as mentally ill. Even though living with DID and autism can be challenging and difficult, we prefer to describe ourselves as being autistic and plural and different, which we feel is less judgmental. Our official diagnoses are autism spectrum disorder and dissociative identity disorder. We feel using the word disorder pathologizes us and disempowers us. Defining ourselves as a system feels more unifying for us. We see ourselves as a family of alters sharing the same body. All of us are equal and all of us need space and time to be out in the world. Here are some definitions for the language we use when talking about ourselves, starting with plurality. Plurality refers to there being more than one self in a person. We feel there are multiple selves sharing our mind and body. This is how we define a system. A system is the collective name given to the many selves that make up a person. How do we define an alter? An alter, a part or a persona, is the name given to the many selves that make up a person. Aucademy asked, when did you realise you were a system? Mostly we were totally unaware of each other as we were growing up. Different alters would front or take control of the body at different times, and there was no shared memory or awareness. When we were in our late 20s and living with our boyfriend, Naomi, or whoever was actually fronting at the time, became aware of different people or selves sharing her body. We weren't diagnosed with DID until we were 28 years old. After our diagnosis, we chose to integrate all of our alters, a process where we merged together over time. One by one, the walls between 2 different alters broke down and the 2 alters merged into one. We repeated this over and over until we were back to just the one personality, Naomi. Naomi lived as one person for 12 years until she was diagnosed as autistic. Shortly after our autism diagnosis, our alters started to re-emerge. We now have over 20 alters in our system. Some are the original alters and some are new ones we have developed as adults. We also have discovered alters that were always there but chose not to introduce themselves to us when we were originally diagnosed with DID. Aucademy asked, how do your family and friends understand your experiences? We live with our husband and 2 children. They see us changing between alters and witness conversations between alters. Our youngest parts are able to play with our children, and our children can tell when we have switched between alters. We are careful to always have our parenting personas available when we are looking after our children to keep both them and us safe. Outside of our family, the only other person to know our alters is our therapist. We have told some people that we are a system, but mostly we don't switch between alters when we leave our home. We try to stay as one person, so we are less confusing to other people and because we don't want to be judged. Aucademy asked, how do you understand your system and why was it created? We believe our alters were created to help us cope with a world we couldn't manage. Typically, alters are created in response to trauma. Many of our alters, especially our youngest alters, hold a lot of autistic trauma. Autistic trauma is a term we invented to refer to the trauma resulting from growing up as an undiagnosed and unsupported autistic. We couldn't understand the world. We wanted to please others but didn't know how to do that. We moulded ourselves on other people and created new identities who could function better and who would be accepted more by the world. In doing this, we totally lost who we actually were. A lot of our therapy is working out who we actually are, separate to other people's expectations and opinion of us. What was it like when your system was created? For the first 2 decades of our life, we had no conscious awareness that we were operating as a system. In our therapy, our youngest alters can talk to our therapists and explain how and why they formed and when they went inside and why, but at the time, we had no idea about any of it. How did being a system affect discovering your autistic identity? We were living as one person when we were diagnosed as autistic. No alters were present when Naomi went for her autism assessment. At our assessment, Naomi was wondering if she ever had been DID at all, or if it all been just a manifestation of autism. We feel this annoyed the alters and had a large part to play in them re-emerging. Julie, the first alter to come back, says she wanted to show Naomi that there had been alters in her life and that the alters were real. How does your system work? Our system evolved over time, so how it works today isn't how it worked before we had knowledge of being a system, and it isn't how it worked when we first found out we were DID when we were in our 20s. Today, our therapist helps us to see the functionality of having lots of selves and helps us to choose the appropriate alter to come out in any given situation. We have meetings with each other and we try to support and listen to each other. Our final question from Aucademy is, what's your favourite stim? We love our fidget toy. We use it in every therapy session and it helps us to focus. We hope you have enjoyed our video on being autistic and a system and have learnt something new. We don't tell many people that we are a system because we worry we will be judged. Most people have never heard of DID and we don't generally find it helpful to tell people about it. On our Autistic Selves YouTube channel and Instagram account, we have a safe space where we can share our truth with the world. If you want to support us, then please visit our Autistic Selves accounts. Thank you for your support.